Our next guest has been called an outrageous charlatan to strangers and a visionary prince to his swelling flock. As founder and minister of the United Church Science of Living Institute, Incorporated in New York City, he has an estimated 2.5 million followers around the country who believe completely in his message. He broadcasts that message across the country every day through 1,770 radio stations, and he produces his own videotaped sermons for telecast in 10 major markets throughout the country. He's candidly said, God wants you to have heaven and a Cadillac too. And the best thing you can do for the poor is not to be one of them. He's an ascending superstar in American evangelism. Here's Reverend Ike. Reverend Ike, what is your message?
Well, my message can be described in the vernacular of the street sometimes. To get to the heart of it, what people like to hear, I have retranslated that portion of the Bible that says the love of money is the root of all evil to read the lack of money is the root of all evil. And my philosophy I call the science of living. It is really a form of positive self-image psychology and positive self-motivation, because when a person believes in himself positively and correctly, this motivates him to be what he wants to be, do what he wants to do, and have what he wants to have right here, right now. I teach people, don't wait for pie in the sky, by and by when you die. Get your pie now with ice cream on top. I think somebody wants to be baptized behind that message.
You come before your gatherings in beautifully tailored clothes and wearing diamond rings, and look at the incredible watch you're wearing. Is that really necessary for delivering your message?
Well, if the stuff I use doesn't work for me, I have no right to give it to other people. And of course, one of my slogans is, you can't lose with the stuff I use. If my message and the stuff I use does not prosper me, I have no business offering it to anybody else. And I think this is why my message has a popular appeal. You see, a lot of this other theological stuff that we've had crammed down our throats for centuries, has not been working for people. But this stuff that I use, positive self-image psychology and positive self-motivation, is working, and it enriches a person. It causes a person to be successful and prosperous right here, right now.
Who pays for your expensive work?
Well, first of all, let's remember that whatever luxuries I enjoy, I earn, I work. I'm not on welfare. I'm not asking for handouts for free. But I do have an expense allowance from the church. And the church pays for my wardrobe to the tune of about $1,000 a week.
Your wardrobe costs that?
Yes.
Hooray. And I'm wearing plastic.
My church is probably the only church in the country where I could get a job as a minister because perhaps nobody else could afford me. And I tell my people, I'm not cheap. What I'm giving is not cheap. My philosophy works, and it's worthwhile. It helps a lot of people.
According to the available 1972 tax records, your followers contribute about $6 million a year.
Oh, that's old information.
For you to run your church. Now, is this true, though?
Oh, since that time, it has increased. My church
Talk about the wrong
and
racket.
myself, we are successful, prosperous, and rich, and I make no apologies for it.
Well, well, well.
And isn't it also true that you do not encourage the poor people to attend your church?
Now, that's an interesting attitude which I read about in the New York Times story, yes. And what I say is this. I say to them, you cannot attend this church and remain poor, meaning that when people get turned on to this philosophy and begin to believe in themselves and become positively motivated, they will not remain poor. And I think that's where that misinterpretation came from.
I see.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
What do you feel your percentages of people who have come to you as failures, and then, I mean, what do you think the ratio of success is?
Well, I have never thought about it in those terms. It's like a physician, a doctor, for example. A doctor cannot approach his practice thinking that, well, I wonder how many failures am I going to have. The stuff I use will work, but the individual must work with it. Now, the stuff I use will not work for people who will not work with it. You know, I teach the person, believe in yourself, believe that you can be and do and have, and this will motivate you. But naturally, there are people that I don't help because they don't work with this philosophy. You see, here again in this philosophy, there's no big God in the sky to give people something, to give them handouts, or to drop riches down. I say that God is within you. The power and the potential that you need to be successful and prosperous are within you, and you have to work with that. But for those people who are spiritually and mentally lazy, and they don't want to learn how to use their own mind power, my philosophy will not work for them.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I believe in God,
But you just
I
said-
believe that God is within the individual. I do not believe that God is apart from man. I do not believe that God is a big man in the sky. I believe that God is the big man within me and you and you. God is the big man within everyone, not a big man in the sky.
But hasn't God become big business?
Absolutely. If God is God, God's business should be the biggest. That's why my business is so big and so big. You see, I am God appearing as me. And this is true of everyone. I teach this to everyone. You are God appearing as you. And in the one God,
I don't even have a beard.
in the one God, every man is God of his own experience. I'm not anybody else's God, and nobody else is your God. But in the one God, which is really consciousness or self-awareness, every man is God of his own experience. But you see, this is another thing. People do not like to accept self-responsibility. People like to have a convenient devil that they can blame when they are lazy and don't do what they could do for themselves. People like to have a devil that they can blame when they don't live up to the best that they could live up to, and when they do things that they shouldn't do, so that they can say, as Flip Wilson says, the devil made me do it. And it is said also that the devil was seen sitting outside of the church crying his heart out one day, down on the curbstone, and just weeping and wailing. And so finally somebody went out and said, devil, why are you crying like that? He said, those people in that church, he said, everything that goes wrong, they put it on me. And it only goes to show you that human nature says that, well, I got to have a scapegoat. But in this philosophy, there is no scapegoat. If you're not being, doing, and having the good you desire, it's not the white folks or the black folks. It's not the system. It's you.